Hello, my name is Cameron Asgarzadigan and you're watching another episode of Cam's Camera Talk. If you follow my channel, you realise that I have been away for about 2 months now. Certain circumstances meant that I couldn't make videos, or just I was really too busy, or just that I sort of needed a break from it. There were a few things that came out that I did want to talk about, a few trailer releases. So you had Batman v Superman, you had Civil War, you had X-Men Apocalypse, Star Trek just came out as well, a few more incidents, Conor McGregor, Jose Aldo. I would have liked to have done a video on that, but alas, here I am. And what a way to break my silence than a review for Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. If Star Wars The Force Awakens proved anything at all, it is that I am a sucker for marketing. Before I even knew that I liked these characters, I went out and bought these. I probably spent like £50 alone on buying products for this film. But anyway, you're not here to hear about my frivolous spending. You're here to hear about Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. Here it is. So before I start out, it is worth noting that this is a spoiler-free review. Anything that I wouldn't have wanted to know before I went into the film, I am not going to touch on at all. So if you don't want the Star Wars film to be spoiled for you, then don't worry. So Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens is the continuation of the Star Wars franchise. That kind of goes without saying. And it is brought to us by director J.J. Abrams. If the trailer for Star Trek Beyond is anything to go by, then it looks like J.J. Abrams was willing to let Star Trek die so that Star Wars could live. And that's a sacrifice that I'm happy to live with. Not since the Avengers have I seen a spectacle as big as this one. The film was just about to start and I was sitting in a packed out theatre and we're all just looking at the blank screen waiting for the Star Wars logo to come on, and it was absolutely silent. When it all kicked off, it was hard to believe what I was watching. I was just sat there with a big ass cheesy grin on my face. If I could have left my body and looked at myself whilst I was watching this film, then I imagine I'd probably just look like this. So now I've just got to wait until March until I can experience that sensation again with the release of Batman v Superman. So anyway, now let's get into the film. So you've got your returning character with Harrison Ford as Han Solo and Carrie Fisher as Leia. Harrison Ford is really good in this film. It's nice to see an aged Han Solo. He's older, he's wiser. I was skeptical to see how they were going to bring Han Solo back into this film with him still being relevant, but the film manages to address that in a really good way. Not only is Han Solo a relevant character, he's arguably the most important character to the narrative of this film. Leia isn't in this film that much, but she is everything good that we remember about the character of Leia. When you haven't seen a great character in 30 years cinematic time, then you appreciate any little time that you get to spend with them. Now it's time to talk about the new cast. So kicking off, you've got John Boyega as Finn. I love the character of Finn so much. I thought he's probably the best character in the film. I mean, he was funny, he was likeable, he was relatable, and also because of his backstory, it had such a rich level of emotional depth. And John Boyega really made the most of that to churn out an amazing performance. Daisy Ridley played Rey, and she was sort of a similar character to Finn. And I don't know whether it was just me, but I don't know whether it was her voice or her mannerisms, but she reminded me so much of Keira Knightley. When I'm comparing you to one of the greatest actresses of our generation, and it's really one of your first films, then you know you've done a good job. This film tried to establish a sort of new Leia and Han Solo with these two characters, and I think it really worked. The chemistry was amazing between them. Poe Dameron is played by Oscar Isaacs in this, and I thought he was a really good character. Unfortunately, we don't get to see all that much of him, but going forwards with the new films, I imagine he's going to play an even bigger part, and I would like to see him involved a little bit more. The big bad in this film is Kylo Ren, which is played by Adam Driver. Did I enjoy Ren as much as I thought I would? Not really, but that's not to mean that he wasn't a good character. In fact, it is the opposite. He was a great character, but the problem was, in all the advertisements and sort of the marketing of this film, he has really been the poster boy. And unfortunately for me, it didn't hit like he was the main star that he was meant to be. The problem is that it's no surprise that his role in this film is a lot like Vader's in the original Star Wars films. But Vader was so perfect in that role because he was just this huge destructive presence who was literally emotionless. Until Return of the Jedi, Vader was pretty unrelatable as a character, and that meant we didn't really understand him fully, which actually made him an even scarier presence. But the problem with Kylo Ren is that he's too human. We can relate to him, we can see things from his point of view. Relatively early on in this film, shit starts to go wrong for him, so he just gets his lightsaber out and just wails on this control panel. But we all feel anger like that. I mean, the amount of times I've conceded a 90th minute goal on FIFA and just thrown my PS4 controller against the wall in a blind rage is unreal. But Vader never really had these moments of weakness, yet we've seen Kylo Ren have them, so it just demeans him a little bit as a villain. But nonetheless, I did like him as a character. I thought Adam Driver did a really good job. And as for Luke Skywalker, I can't really even talk about him. It doesn't take much brain power to work out that there was something going on with Luke Skywalker in this film. And if I was to mention it or even talk about it briefly, then we will be entering spoiler realm, and that's a video for another day. Oh yeah, and whilst I'm talking about characters, Captain Phasma. Yeah, here she is. Captain Phasma there. Spent £10 on this figure. She's barely even in the fucking film. She was billed as being the new Boba Fett, and she's probably in this film about 6 seconds. I am over exaggerating there, but the fucked up thing is, not by a lot. It is difficult for me to talk about this film without actually giving away spoilers, because there is sort of this one narrative string which holds the entire film together, which is the biggest spoiler of them all. I will say this though, if you go to The Force Awakens expecting to see a lot of lightsaber action, then you are going to be severely disappointed. More so than an action film, this is a story-based film. So a lot of people who are sort of detached a little bit from Star Wars will just see lightsaber fights and attach that to the Star Wars franchise, but you do deserve to know that there isn't many in this. And the ones you do get are pretty average. Because shoot me if you must, and whatever hate must be bestowed upon me for defending anything in the prequels, then I will just take. But the lightsaber fights in the prequels were awesome. You had Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan versus Darth Maul, and you had Anakin and Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith. They were both awesome fights. I know a lot of people said that, oh, they're too choreographed, but it doesn't matter. All fights in films are choreographed. But they were really fun to watch, really amazing. To be fair, Hayden Christensen owed us that much for making us sit through 2 films of his unbearable acting, giving us so much of his acting range with such lines like, "You killed her. My mother is dead. I love you, Padme. I killed the younglings. What have I done?" I feel you get the point by now. But back to my initial point, which is I wanted The Force Awakens to be the best of both worlds. Have the story of the originals, yet the action of the prequels, and unfortunately I didn't really get that. Also, this film at times can be a little bit predictable. But saying that, what you need to take into consideration is that this film had to entertain people sort of between the ages of 6 and 80. So what I found predictable probably would shock a 12-year-old girl. Okay, yeah, this review has been me talking about the flaws quite a lot, but if I talked about the things I like, then it would just be me standing here reading you a list. What's also worth bearing in mind is that I've not been able to talk about roughly 60% of this film because I haven't wanted to spoil anything. But when it is all said and done, the Force was strong with Star Wars Episode 7. And as a long-time Star Wars fan, it was great to see a really good introduction to this brilliant world. So when it is all said and done, I am going to give Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, a treble thumbs up. I am going to leave it a few days just until the dust settles and the majority of people have a chance to actually see the film before I actually do a spoiler review of Star Wars. I will get round to doing it. Chances are I'll be able to have that up online for either Monday or Wednesday. Anyway, if you've liked what I've brought for you today, feel free to like, comment and subscribe. Also follow me on Twitter at Cam's Camera Talk. There's a link in the description below. Thank you for watching and I'll see you later. character Philippe Petit is played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I remember seeing Levitt's film 50-50 and he was